keep it loyal to the team. UBK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet, got soldiers on deck, and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother way. Tell him get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us here breach. Nigga, come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us here breach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Man, this shit is too easy. I'm on gold, but they don't believe me. You know I'm winning with the team. Screaming Vinny, 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 V's. Need them devils screaming out bloody murder. Home by the color curtain. On my grind, bitch, and work. Sorry, all them lies, it ain't working. Them niggas weak, they be church. I'm a West nigga, that's for certain. If he cross the line, I'ma back up and I'ma hit his ass with his virus. When I come through 300 strong, 144 Leonidas. All my niggas we eat. Menace bitch with the iris. Say, all y'all do the sweet. Tell y'all do the sweet. The nigga made the wrong move, he ain't make his ass out the lead. He ain't one of us hit the lead. He ain't one of us here preach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Go ahead. I keep it loyal to the team. UBK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet, got soldiers on deck, and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother wave. Tell him get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us here breach. Nigga, come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us here breach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat.
You see this look that's on my face, bitch, I'm for real with it. I hit the streets, put on my cleats, was in the field with it. You soft as cotton, just an actor, Uncle Phil with it. And then my targets on the move, bitch, I can still hit it. Hey, I speak true cause it's necessary. Gullah Jack revolutionary. Cold on them like January. Commander General is a visionary. Soul food, no sweets. Your preacher man, he's sweet. Matter of fact, he weak. It's wartime for peace. Think you hard, nigga, you ain't. Fuck with us, nigga, you can't. You smart cars, we pace. We form up in ranks. We body bag this rap shit. All black, no bright shit. Real life, no cap, bitch. Fall on them, that's cap shit.
I keep it loyal to the team. UBK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet, got soldiers on deck, and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother wave. Tell him get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us here breach. Nigga, come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us here breach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Go ahead. All jokes aside, you know how niggas be like, I'm this and that for life, this and that for life. I'm on this for life, nigga, this a blood oath. Hey, yo, Madara, it go a class for you, my nigga. 140 for the rebel. The world turned its back on me. I'm a cripple. We got soldiers, he got soldiers, but I got different ones. Ain't no way out, I tell you once. Don't pray for nothing, send a curse. We can't forgive what's forbidden. Remain in them trenches. Trust in the Lord, but please forgive me for the times that I did in Thanksgiving. Have your respect to your apprentice. Be about your business. This loyalty's a death sentence. Look, trying to pick up with a blind foot. They said there'll be many mansions. I'm just grinding for my time share. The devils ain't playing fair. They hunt you like bad pal. But ain't no getting out the game like Jumanji. You take that oath, it's a Dundee. They try to deal death to a priest. You won't make it out in one piece. So you can stand. Just make sure you got the heart. Say your name 3 times. It is death do us part. Look. So how you feel about this truth I done shown? This ain't the like you think, little nigga. I should want. Even your own people go this zone. And the Lord said they hate you for my name. Now you better keep it on. Ain't no more guessing. Ain't no more questions. Make sure my election till I'm tucked away like George Jetson. Murder for capital, now it's murder at the Capitol. The world in amazement, we like fucking raise it, raise it. I pity those watching life as it go by. Be giving mercy in this life, I don't know why. In pump smoke, never try to. The day that all my brother be the day that sold out on the phone. Salute my nigga. Salute my nigga. They like, how you stay focused? I told them I'm motivated because of you, my nigga. Brotherhoods and weapons, still got weapons on the scene. Now never do my niggas like Bishop did Raheem. Never mind in all beliefs. They under anesthesia. Shorty say she leave me, say she wanna let that love go. Told I let that love grow. But if I bring you to my bed, that's a blood oath. So, how you feel about this truth out of show? This ain't the life you think, little nigga. I should want. Even your own people gon' disown. And the Lord said they hate you for my name, so you better keep it on. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Shalom, Israel. We got an ISUPK, started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. And since 1969, we have been teaching the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the truth according to the Bible, right? And we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group on the planet. All right, we're located here at 5261 Delmar Boulevard, Suite A. That's in St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. All right. Class tonight has 2 call-in numbers. The first number is 712-832-8330. And the second number is 425-436-6260. All right. The PIN number for both is 825-1636. All right, this coming Friday from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. All right, right here at 5261 Delmar Boulevard, we'll be having another food drive, right? Commander General Yohana is sending more food to the people of St. Louis. All right, and again, that is going to be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. You know, when you pull up, make sure you got your, your trunks empty, your back seat empty, somewhere for us to put the food, right? Most times people pull up, they have less space than we got food to give them, right? So if you're coming up, make sure you got enough room because it's going to be a lot of food. Trust me. All right, let's see. This and every Sunday we have Sharpen the Sword Radio, right? Hosted by Captain DeGaulle Gabar, most controversial radio show to ever hit St. Louis, and that's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The call-in number for that is 712-832-8330. And the PIN number for that is 910-1409. Or if you are in the St. Louis area, you can go ahead and meet us right here at 5261 Delmar Boulevard where we will be having the show. All right. All right, let's check and see if we got questions online. Any questions in class? All right. Title of class today. See, Tuesday night is our brotherhood class night, right? So we go over brotherhood and sisterhood issues, right? Things about how to build up better brothers and how to build up better sisters, right? So tonight the class topic, subject of class is the role of a woman, right? Now, we understand, what the role of our women has been since we've been in America, right? And that role has been assigned by our oppressor, right? That our women just did not want to be in the position they're in. It was assigned by our oppressor, and they were seduced into believing that it would be for the best. It was the best way for us to survive, right? But that, of course, was a prophecy, and this has been happening to our people, where our women have been being put over us by our oppressors, right? So we're going to start off tonight in the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, and the 22nd verse. All right, you got Flock says, you got a Bible? You got one? Hold on. Salaki. Again, you know, what I mean, this right here is class. So, you know, make sure you're taking your notes. Make sure you got your Bible out. You know, because, you know, this is important because, like I say, all of this stuff is, it's none of this stuff is new, right? The situation we're in and the way our communities have been destroyed, this stuff isn't new, right? It's just this oppressor is just one of the best at it, right? He is the greatest at oppression, right? All right. You got it? All right, cool. We're at the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, the 22nd verse. All right. How long wilt thou go about, O backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. Right? So we see that originally it wasn't set up for our women to be in front, our women to be leading, right? But our women in our community are the community leaders, right? Whenever you go out and look, you see, especially with churches now, you're starting to see a lot more women pastors. Or even if they're not the pastors, the first lady's taking a much more active role in leadership in the congregation, right? You see a lot more in our community. Women have more women have higher degrees than men, right? They have better jobs, and in this society, we're taught that the one who's making the money makes the rules, right? So that's how this society has trained our women and our men to be, right? And then even when they're not making more money, they tend to get more in aid, even if the man is equally destitute. The woman tends to get more in aid, whether she has children or not, especially if she has children. You know, one of the things I like to tell people, you know, what happens if a woman has a child, especially a black woman, has a child that she can't take care of? Well, she gets food stamps. She gets cash aid. She can get Section 8. And she can get funding. What happens if a black man has a child he can't take care of? He gets jail. Or he gets his license taken away first because he can't afford to pay for it. That the first thing they do when you can't afford to pay for your child, or you can't afford to pay child support, is they take your license. Then they lock you up. Why? Because you're in the same financial situation as that woman. I've seen men who have had to go to court for child support, and this happened in St. Louis when I was working over at this place called Mid America Display, right? He had a court date because he couldn't pay child support for the children that lived in his house since they were born. And the child support card was in his pocket because the woman also lived with him. They just weren't legally married. So he was on papers for child support, but he had lost his job. So now he's about to now he could go to jail for the kids that never been out of his house. He's been taking care of them. He's been doing his job, but it doesn't matter. Because if you're in this situation as a man, you're not going to get that support. Why? Because they want to separate our families. That is how they can perpetuate their kingdom, right? How they can keep how they can keep us, trying to be well. It's not necessarily just keeping us down, but it's we have to be invested in their culture, right? It's not just that we have to not know or not follow ours. We have to follow theirs, right? It has to be their way, right? And what they what they use to do that is our women, right? Let's go to another great prophet, Isaiah, in the 3rd chapter, in the 12th verse, right? Because again, when you see a prophecy, you can guarantee that you can find that same prophecy somewhere else, right? All right, the book of Isaiah, chapter 3, verse 12. As for my people, children are their oppressors. See, our oppressor is a child, right? He throws temper tantrums at every second. He cares not for tomorrow. He has no forethought, right? He destroys the oxygen that he breathes because he doesn't have much more time to breathe it. But he has children and grandchildren. He doesn't care about their problems. He just wants what he wants. Give me more, more, more. He can't be satisfied, right? So our people are our oppressors are children, right? And women rule over them. We just discussed that. The women in our community run the households. That's where it comes from. That they rule over us. Our men don't run the households anymore. Half the time, you can't find men in households anymore, right? So then, and most of those men who aren't in the households were also raised by women who had no man in the household. Like, it's a cycle that perpetuates and continues upon itself, because when you raise a child and that woman keeps saying, I don't need a man, and her daughter says, well, when I grow up, I won't need a man. And when that boy grows up, well, I don't need to be a man. I don't want to be a man. Why? Because every example that he sees downs the man, right? Because that is how our oppressor keeps us in a weakened state. They keep our women unprotected and our men constantly being effeminized, all right? And again, look, the Bible talks about that too, right? This we see our situation. We see everything that we go through in the Bible, right? That's how this book is. It continues to baffle me when people say they don't believe in the Bible, or they have a problem with believing that the Bible's real. Like, I get that you may not understand it. I get that you may not fully understand what it means, but there is no book that was written 2, 3, 4,000 years ago that is showing evidence that it is still true today, that is prophesying things to come in the past that are now happening, right? So let's see exactly why they do this, right? Because the Bible explains out why our oppressor does this, why they want our women in the forefront, right? And it's in the book of Ecclesiasticus, which is in the Apocrypha, the 36th chapter, right? And the 25th verse, all right? Where no hedge is, the possession is spoiled, right? So where there is no protection, where that man is no longer there, when they remove the man out of the house, they can do what they want to with the woman, because she is that possession. She is that treasure, right? And once you have taken that man out of the way, then you can do with her what you will, right? Like in the Willie Lynch letter, right? Right. Where it talks about making the man physically strong and mentally weak. Well, this is the exact same thing. This is how you break down this community, right? Where your daughters are more mentally strong and your sons are mentally weaker. Now, how we see what happens with our men when we think emotionally, right? We see what happens when our men don't think logically. We make decisions based off of how we feel, right? Understandable. That's understandable for a woman because she's an emotional creature, right? She's allowed that room, right? Especially because she's the weaker vessel. But as a man, you're not allowed that room to make decisions or judgments based on how you feel, right? You can, of course, men have emotions, men have feelings, they have things but a judgment cannot be based on that. Your actions cannot be based on how you feel. There are plenty of times where where that term "bite the bullet," you know, when you a man, you just got to do what you got to do. Sometimes it don't matter how you feel. Your feelings don't matter in that way. Why? Because logic and reason dictate, and good judgment dictate that you act in this way. So your feelings are irrelevant in that moment. Now, when we're grown, when we're being raised, and the man's best example of a leader is a woman, then when that man is grown, he makes his decisions and acts like a woman. So that's why we need to understand not only just the role of the man, because yes, the man is the leader. Yes, the man is the head, but women are extremely important, right? They're critical to our nation. I mean, honestly, they could be critical to others, but I don't care about others. What matters is what's good for us, right? And let's go here. We see that this is what is being perpetuated in this earth today, that we need to our men need to soften up. Our men are soft enough, right? We are the softest thing that has ever existed. Our men are walking around wearing pants tighter than women, wearing man, if I see another man with a purse on, like, I don't know what like this is infuriating. And you want to act like you are the hardest thug in the world, and then you whip out your little handbag or your little clutch. Like, did you? What's up, sis? Uh, Sorry, sis. You grab that mic. Yes, you can. Oh, you can just start from where you. Right, and yeah, that is definitely true, sis. You know that we don't see that's how a generational curse works, and the Bible speaks about generational curses, but us as so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we the only ones who actually talk about that outside of the Bible. Like we the only ones that actually see generational curses in our community, right? And like that's what you're saying is so true, right? You get that example when you're growing up, because a childhood is not what I always believed when I was a child was a childhood is not to be enjoyed. Yes, there are moments when you have enjoyment, of course. A childhood's the purpose of a childhood is to train that child to be an adult, right? So when their entire childhood is told that they don't see a good relationship between a man and a woman, right? They're told they don't need a man, or they're told that they can do everything by themselves, and then when they become adults, and then they want to try a relationship, first thing they don't know is how to work, right? Because here's the thing: when you get in a marriage, when you get when you are with a person, that is for life, right? So it's not, that don't mean everything is peaches and cream all the time. Most of the time it's hard work, right? Most of the time it's serious conversations. Most of the times it's getting mad at each other and still coming to the table and working on your issues and working on your problems, because that is a healthy relationship. That's how growth happens, right? Because people don't like to change. People like to get in their ways and they think that they're right, but they dead wrong, right? And actually, let me go ahead and hop to this verse, because this is one of the things, that men in the ISUPK, this is drilled into us, but this also goes for women as well, right? This is how you come into life, right? This is how you come into the truth. This is how you transition from what our oppressor has made you, right, to what the Most High created you to be, right? The book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 14, verse 34. Therefore, if so be that ye will subdue your own understanding. First thing you got to do is get your own understanding under check. You have to realize that what you know and what you think is wrong in every way until it's confirmed that might be right. Everything you think and everything that you want to say or do is wrong, because you were trained outside of the truth. You were trained in a world that is set to make you go off track, that is set to keep you against your God, because if you are against your God will not fight for you, and they can take advantage of you, right? It benefits them. See, that's what a lot of people don't understand and don't realize. Christianity is set up that way to benefit those who created the denominations, the religions, the belief systems. It benefits them to have you in this position. So if they can create something that makes you worship them in every way, then that is why you would do it. That's why you lie about what the Bible means. That's why you tell false truths about what's written in the scripture. You want to deceive because the deception benefits you, right? I'm going to keep going. And reform your hearts. Your heart biblically is your mind, right? You have to reform. You have to subdue your thoughts and then reform your mind. You have to change it. It cannot stay the same, right? Those thoughts that you had were wrong. Therefore, you have to change the way you think so that you don't have those thoughts in the first place, right? Ye shall be kept alive, and after death, ye shall obtain mercy, right? That's what we all trying to do, right? Because we all know we done messed up, and we trying to get mercy from the Most High. We trying to get forgiven for the wrongs that we've done because we know we've all lived wrong, right? So the only way to get forgiven is admit that you were wrong in the first place, right? I was listening to this court case, right? And it was a whole drawn out thing. It was a long story where basically the evidence was shoddy, and they witnesses said it couldn't happen. Nobody believed it, but the police needed to wrap it up, so they got this guy and they put him in jail. And they basically the community was they made the community believe it was him, and they ended up locking this kid away. Like he was 15 when the crime happened or whatever, 20 when they locked him up, right? He stayed in jail like 20 some odd years, 26 years, something like that. But he had said that he had maintained his innocence, right? And then they started going around and doing and passed a law where you can't put a child in jail for life, right? And so they were, getting rid of a bunch of people's sentences. But the only way they would allow him out is if he admitted guilt and showed remorse, right? But here's the thing, right? In his case, whether he did it or not is irrelevant, right? But the thing is, what they were doing was they were showing mercy, right? And if you cannot admit to your crime, you cannot show regret and remorse for committing your crime, you have no grounds to receive that mercy, right? Same thing with the Most High. Most of us don't, especially for a lot of things that we do in the world, we don't feel we're wrong for doing them. We justify it, right? Well, I had to do that to survive. You actually had other options. The other options would have been a lot harder and would have been it would have led to more struggle. But there were technically other options. You weren't literally at gunpoint. Like you did the best you could to survive, right? But that doesn't mean what you did was right. You have to admit your fault, because here's the thing. If you cannot admit that was your fault, you will repeat doing that. You will do that again because you never admitted that it was wrong in the first place, right? So you have to understand that the way we were taught, the way you think, the way that you carry yourself even are wrong until it's confirmed that you're right, or until you see what is right, right? If you've been doing something for years, you come into the truth and you start looking around like, oh, they do the same thing. Cool, that was right. That's the only way you can know what you were doing was right in the first place. But just because you were doing it, just because you think it, you can't go off of that. You have to go off of what thus saith the Most High, right? You have to subdue your understanding and get your own mind in check. Right? All right. Let's see where we at. All right. So now that we've understand, what. Oh, one more thing. Yeah, let me get to that scripture real quick. Let me not leave that out. I'm gonna go to 1 Corinthians. You got that on your Bible. 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter. All right. And we're going to start at the 33rd verse. I honestly see the Christian church uses part of this and then just leaves the other whole part out. All right, it's baffling. This is one continual thought, right? got it? All right, let's go. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace in all churches of the saints. Now, when you hear pastor say it, that's where he stops, right? All right, now let's keep reading. Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. See, that 34, Christians hate everything about that verse. Every single part. First of all, men are the leaders. A church is nothing but a congregation. And we can see when the Bible says saints, it is only referring to Israel. Every single time. In fact, let me just go ahead, because I know there's going to be some Christians that are going to want to have to challenge that. So let's go ahead and see exactly who the saints are defined as. Right? Hit there real quick. The book of Psalms, chapter 50, verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me, those who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So the saints are the ones who made a covenant by sacrifice. The children of Israel are the only ones to ever make a covenant with the Most High God by sacrifice. Right? So when it says the church, all the churches of the saints, it's talking about in every gathering of Israelites, in every place when so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans gather together, right? The Most High is saying, let your women keep silence in the churches. In those gatherings, let the women keep silent. That's when the men speak. Why? Because again, that whether you know it or understand it or not, that's politicking. That's politics, right? Right then, it don't even matter what the conversation is. Everything is politics at that point, right? Whether we talking about you, who the best basketball player is, or who better at 2K, or who, it's all politics. Or we going over scriptures, right? In that situation, that is a leadership type situation, right? When political it's like exercising politics is exercising force, right? It is the same as teaching. It has the ability to sway, convince, to change the direction of an entire thought process of people, right? That is what politics does, right? When we are gathered together, right, we're teaching, and we're in other situations, other cases, we're going over politics, right? So in those situations and in those gatherings, the women are not supposed to be leading. They're not supposed to be out front. They're not supposed to be swaying the decisions of the masses of men. That's not how it works, right? So it's not this one. It's not in this passage. But again, that's because in that situation, right, that is her usurping her authority over men when she is, again, acting as it's a political head. Whenever you're speaking, you're not just a follower. You're trying to influence. You're trying to lead. You're trying to teach. That is the reason for speaking in congregations. That don't mean she can't talk at her house. That don't mean she can't talk to her husband. That don't mean she can't actually have conversations with leadership but that is not when it's in the churches. That's why we have to define these words. In churches means congregations, gatherings, large groups. This is not just talking about one on one. This is not just talking about one on two or three. This is talking about in congregate in large groups, right? There's a difference. All right. Now, we understand that, again, that's not what they're supposed to be doing, right? We see that they're not supposed to lead. But now, what are they supposed to do, right? We're going to start with First Timothy 5:14, the 5th chapter, the 14th verse, right? We're going to start, growing up, right? So, the book of First Timothy, chapter 5, verse 14, says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. Well, let's go over those things one by one, right? For the younger women to marry, right? The older you get, the more established in your ways you are. It is very difficult to change when you get older. I was just having this conversation with my daughter the other day. I told her, sometimes it seems like we're hard on you, and sometimes it seems like we get on every little thing you do. But right now, as a child, you have a great opportunity to change these things before they become habits, right? And when they become habits, and when you're 25 or 30, it's hard to change it, when it would have been a lot easier to nip it in the bud when you were a child, right? So as a younger woman, to marry will help stabilize you. Because here's the thing. This, again, we're talking about everything being done righteously and in order, right? So now once you get married, you're with that man for the rest of your life. Now, prayerfully, you and your father are in the UPK, because then he will raise you to where he chooses your husband. And he will choose a man. Go ahead. Oh, you got a question? You got a question? Go ahead. Yes. Yes. Father chooses a husband. Again, that's a sad situation, and a lot of our sisters are left out here for that very reason, right? But optimally, the father should choose the husband, and there's many great reasons for that. A couple of them are: a father was that 18-year-old boy before. A father knows every little game that boy about to run. Now, here's the thing, right? Ain't nobody talking about forcing nobody on on a child, right? Like, of course, there's a courtship period. Of course, there's a getting to know each other period. Of course, there's a let's see if we are compatible with each other period. But once you marry, it should be someone that your father has chosen and or approved, right? Because again, like I said, he see the stuff you don't when you a child. You see what I'm saying? He done ran the same game that boy is about to try to run on you. Game ain't new. Game ain't changed. It's the same thing it's always been. It, and we see biblically, our forefathers generally had their women chosen by their fathers. The men did too. For example, when Jacob went to go get his wife. He was sent to that specific family member's house to go get one of his daughters. Like I know him. I know how he raises his children. Go over there and figure it out. He didn't just send him to anybody. He didn't just say go get any woman. He sent him to a very specific place and said, "Okay, I know for a fact he had the two, Rachel and Leah, but he might have had more. But he said, look, you go here because here is where you find a woman that you can marry." Right, so it's not just the fathers that pick for the daughters, but the fathers usually pick or give strong guidance to the sons, right? But yeah, it's because and you want to do that, and usually men tended to marry older, right? Because for a woman, like I was saying, for her to get set in her ways, it's hard for that man when he comes in to basically break her down and then rebuild her, because now you got because here's the thing, because after you done got married, you married, that's it, that's all. So now I got to deal with you, but now I got to deal with all this extra baggage, right? Now as a man getting married older, it gives him more time as a brother to get more established in his own, to actually be a leader, to actually learn how to lead before he gets a woman who has to follow his orders for the rest of her life. He has to learn how to lead. He has to observe those things. He has to, which is why, of course, in the UPK, we teach that a man can have more than one wife because a man can. But when a man comes into the school, we also tell him you don't need if you got a rib, you got to keep her. But if you don't have none, you don't need to get none. Not yet. Not for a while. You need to learn how to lead first. There's things a man needs to know before he gets married. There's things a man needs to accomplish before he can get married, right? But in this society, you can marry whoever you want, whenever you want, with no vetting, no foundation, none of that, right? So again, when you have a woman who's marrying young, these, like I said, these are optimal conditions, right? So if you're in here, if you raise your children, like I said, I'm raising my children in this school, right? I plan on marrying my daughter to one of my brother's sons, right? One that I know was raised well. And how would I do that? I get them to talk, have them court for a certain period of time, and then after that, that's when we would have the ceremony, right? If they decide that that's what they're going to do after that, because still nobody, even your father, can't force you to be with that man. You see what I'm saying? If you haven't been with them, nobody can force you to be with them, right? But your father should guide you. And again, what you were talking about, how, what if she doesn't have her father, or what if he's not in the school? That is the purpose of having our women rule over us, so that our children won't have their fathers. Our women won't have their husbands. So that way the black woman is the most unprotected and neglected thing on the planet. And I say thing because they treat animals better. They treat monuments better. They treat statues better than black women. They treat walls better than they treat our women. Like, they're more protected. There's this tomb. There's a tomb of the unknown soldier, right? There's a monument on top, right? It is guarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you step too close to it, you will have armed Marines coming at you with rifles. They're protecting a concrete box better than the black woman is protected. That is what this society has done to us, right? What we're doing here is trying to get back to where we're supposed to be, getting back to where our men lead, and our women are protected, right? And this is how our young women should be. First off, they should marry. They shouldn't just marry anyone. This is of course talking about a woman who's marrying a man who was vetted by her father, who she's courted, who she knows. It's not just any old guy you just met, right? So she should, a young woman should marry, right? Now let's see what the next thing we got. 30. All right, bear children. Of course, having children when you're younger is obvious because, yeah, having children when you get older leads to more complications. It's possible, but likelihood for what are called birth defects or negative consequences are more likely when you're older and you have children. So, of course, when you're younger, that's when you have children, right? All right. Guide the house. Like, a woman, see, this is what I don't get. Like, a woman, like, yes, you're not the head of the house, but besides the man, you run the house. Everything, and especially if your man is working 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs, he going to camp, he doing this, he doing that. Who else is running the house? Who else is guiding the house? In fact, let's look at one of the best examples of a woman who was guiding her house well, right? Who did exactly what she was supposed to do, right? Going to the book of Proverbs, right? The 31st chapter and the first verse, right? The book of Proverbs, chapter 31, verse 1. The words of King Lemuel. Lemuel was also another name for Solomon, right? Solomon had more than one name. It was one of his other names was Lemuel. Every so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American got about 5, 6 names, depending on where you know him from, right? This is just one of his names, right? The words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him, right? Proverbs is a book written by Solomon. These are like Psalms is mostly David. Of course, there's multiple writers in Psalms, but it's mostly David. Proverbs was written by King Solomon, and his punctuation, his period, the final point he put in his book that is in the Bible was the advice his mother gave him. The wisest king to ever exist, the wisest man ever on earth. He punctuated one of his greatest works with the words of his mother. King David was off at war his whole life. He said his hands were so bloody he could not build the Most High's temple, right? He was when you're off at war, especially back then, you're on a campaign. You're on a campaign for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Like a short one is 3, 4 months. King Solomon was raised, and yes, the Most High gave him a double portion of wisdom, but he was already wise in the first place. That's why he asked for wisdom, because he was wise. Like an unwise person does not ask for more wisdom, right? He was already wise enough to ask the Most High, who was offering him whatever he wanted, for wisdom, right? He was raised and taught by his mother, right? This is why the bearing the children and the guiding the house is so crucial. It's so important and it's so critical, right? Because even in Edomites, I know it changes every 5 seconds. Psychology, the information may be out. Some of it is maybe outdated, but even in Freudian psychology, everything tends to begin and revolve around the relationship with the mother. Why is that? Because she's your first nurturer. She's your first educator, right? She's the one who's supposed to be guiding the household. Right? These are very important and heavy works to be doing. Right? To be a wife, to be able to guide a household. And it says, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. That means you're beyond reproach. You carry yourself well. There's nobody that thinks the baby comes from the milkman, right? You're not the talk of the town of gossip every 2 seconds, right? Because that is how a woman should be. A woman in this truth should be. And here's the thing, if you're not, no sweat. You know what you need to work towards. You know where you need to grow at, right? If for some reason you haven't attained these things, this right here is talking about younger women. Younger women don't have all of this together. This is what the younger woman's duty is while she's transitioning into an older woman, right? This isn't everything you got all at once. No, it takes time, right? Because here's the thing, and it's said in this reason. It's said in this order for a reason, right? First you marry, right? Now you have a new lord over you. Then you bear his children. You got to marry first to bear the children, right? Now, guide the house. Well, how do you know how to guide his house? You have to marry him first. Well, first you have to get to know him. Then you have to marry him. Then you got to bear his children to even have a household to guide, right? This is said in this order for a reason, and this isn't an overnight thing. This is a process he's laying out, right? These are steps. And give none occasion for the adversary to speak reproachfully. When a marriage is new, usually you don't hear too much bad about it. Now, when they've been together for about 5-6 years, I don't know, they done lost the spark. She be staying out a little late. Car be gone a little while longer. Like, again, this is a process, right? Now let's also see it. Let's see. Now, again, those are just the steps for a younger woman, right? Now, a younger woman should have help, right? And the younger women should be getting their help from older women, right? So they because here's the thing, the older women should have already experienced these things. They should have already had a household to run and run it well, right? They should have already had a husband that they were taking care of, children that they've raised, right? There we go. So let's see what the older women should be doing, and that's in Titus, right? Titus, the 2nd chapter, 3rd verse, right? It says, the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior that becometh holiness, right? Holiness, again, is not something spooky, is not something mystical. This woman has to be separate. It got to be something different about her, right? She can't just be your typical, just woman. Like, it got to be something to her, right? Not false accusers. You can't just be lying on people. You can't just be making up stuff. A lot of people make up stuff. 1, because they like a good story. 2, they like to start stuff to see what happens. Right? You can't just be making up stuff. Let me see. You can't just be going out passing out rumors because it sounds nice. You don't know. You don't know most of those rumors are true. You like gossiping. You just like gossiping, and the gossip was nice. The gossip was juicy. You don't know if none of that's true. You just saying what you heard. So somebody lied to you, so you just go pass the lie. So you gonna lie because somebody else lied. Like that doesn't make sense, right? Not giving too much wine. That's pretty obvious, right? You can't be out here just. Of course you can have wine. Of course you can have a drink. You out here getting slapped. You out here, you can't control yourself. You falling all over yourself. You throwing up. Need your girls to hold your hair back. You an older woman. Like this right here is not talking to the younger women. This is the age women. And you still out here getting trashed. You too old for that. You should be done with that by you should have learned how wrong that was. Like them hangovers they ain't caught up to you. They haven't taught you the lesson yet. Oh, okay. Like them days waking up where you don't know how you got where you are in the clothes that you in. That hasn't done anything for you. You are unbothered by that. Okay. You're not a righteous woman. You're not an upright woman, right? Because that's what we're reading here. If you're in this school, if you're here, you're trying to get to this, right? And there are sisters who are already there, and that's great. I would tell y'all exactly like the scripture tell us: beat down their doors, and figure out how they did it. Ask them, be in their ear. Let them blow their phone up. Right? Because that's the only way we're going to get to this is because we have been taught as a people that we don't need each other. And the exact opposite is the truth. Right? The exact opposite is the truth. We've been telling, we in our community, women that say, oh, don't let them say nothing to my kid. You can't tell me nothing. Like, and my favorite one out of the hood is from the Book of Tupac. Only God can judge me. Like, look. None of that is true. We need each other, right? Righteous women need to be teaching those who are coming in, those who are coming up, those who are trying to attain what they had, what those righteous women already have. Just like the righteous men in the school are teaching the men coming in exactly how they got here, exactly how they beat them demons, right? How they got over it, right? And all of this needs to be done with humility because we have to remember, look, each and every one of us, at any point, especially before, we attain perfection. Some people have attained it already. Some people haven't. But every second before that, you'll deserve nothing but death. The crimes that you piled up against the Most High, you deserve nothing but death. It don't matter how long you've been in here. You still deserve that punishment for the crimes you committed. So when you see somebody who is struggling in here, or when you see somebody who's out there in the world and still hasn't made it in here yet, right? You not better than them. We have to remember that to keep ourselves in the right mind state. Because here's the thing. If you so much better than them, how are you ever going to serve them? You can't serve them if you feel like you better than them. Right? You can't serve that young sister coming in if you looking down your nose at her every 2 seconds. You can't serve that young brother because he don't have the best clothes on. He don't have the nicest outfit. He don't smell right. His hair don't look good. You can't serve him. Right? So brothers and sisters need to understand in here, Unlike the Christian church, it ain't about, you see, and that's another thing about the Christian church that makes it so wicked, man. Like, honestly, I know a guy who was years behind on his child support, right? Living at home with his mama, in his 30s. Hey, he had all of the nicest socks and gaiters and suits for church. Because in there, you have to put on that show. There's an air you have to have about yourself. But you can't afford that. You look way better than your life is. That's, and not in a good way, right? Not like, oh, you're overcoming. No, you broke, and you got a $500 watch on. You live with your mama, and you wearing rent. Like, you can't. That's why that church can't serve you. Because it's all about the outside. It's all about what you see. It's not about the actual actions. It's not about what actual changes in their life they've made. It's about how good they look. Right? In here, that's irrelevant. In here, how well do you serve your brother? How well do you help your sister? How well do you take care of your people? Right? How loyal are you? How down are you to stay in this truth no matter who comes against you? That's what matters here. Quality. Not just a facade. Right? So these younger women, with what they're learning, these older women these aged women are supposed to build them up. And when it's talking about aged women here, back then, it actually meant aged. It actually meant older, right? But here, more so, it means that you've been in this school for a while. You've been in the truth for a while. You know a couple things, right? So you can teach the young woman who just got here, who don't know nothing. She might be the same age as you. She might be older than you. But she still don't know half of what you know. Right? Your age is different, right? It's not the same thing as like chronological age. It's aged in the truth, right? Now that is the duty of the older women, right? Now, and I know a lot of women like to go to Proverbs 31, right? When they're talking about the qualities of a woman, of a good woman, right? Of an upright woman, right? Of a good wife, right? And they always like to say that they Proverbs 31 woman, right? I'm having a hard time believing a lot of these sisters ever read Proverbs 31. Ever. Because they'll say the same thing. They'll say one thing and then like it's exactly opposite of what you just said you were, right? So let's read a couple characteristics, a couple qualities of a Proverbs 31 woman, right? I'm going to start off with Proverbs 31, verse 26, right? In Proverbs 31, verse 26. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. See, here's the thing. You can't be a dragon and be a Proverbs 31 woman. You can't be breathing fire and you a Proverbs 31 woman. You need to be able to rule and control your tongue, right? You need to be able to speak with some decorum. Act like you got some sense sometimes, right? what the words that you say, they should be wise. Why? Because you thought about them, because you had time to think them over before you said them. It's not just what you thought or what you feel and it just came out your mouth. That's not what a Proverbs 31 woman does. She speaks wisely, right? I heard a saying, in a quote from a movie, right? It was a beautiful quote, and it was talking about this man's wife. He said, "She's a woman of few words because she knows the power of them." That you don't have to say much if what you say carries weight. But when you running off at the mouth all the time, none of your words mean anything. You devalue your words by using too many. Right? Let's look at another quality or characteristic of a Proverbs 31 woman. We're going to go up to verse 16. Right? Verse 16. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planted a vineyard. She girded her loins with strength, and her arms, and strengthened her arms. She worked. She works. Like, she's not a bum. She's not idle. She puts in work. Right? Now, again, this is talking about, this is literally talking about buying a literal field. But the advice, it wasn't actually talking about a woman who's actually buying a field. It just means work. Right? Now, whether that work is, a job, 9-to-5 job, or she an entrepreneur, she does that, or she puts in work at the school, she's not a bum. She's not just sitting around doing nothing all damn day. It's like all day, right? And again, and the reason why I say that this wasn't specifically that she was literally buying a field, this is advice a queen is giving to a prince who's going to be the next king. He not worried about you buying the field when he owns all the land. You see what I'm saying? So, but what it's saying is she's not a bum, right? She's wise. She's wise in business decisions. She considereth a field, right? She thinks about it. And then after her thought concludes, then she buys it. She doesn't just go spend money frivolously, right? She girdeth her loins with strength. She tightened that belt. She pinching them pennies. You ain't about to just get all of her money about her. Not happening. You ain't about to run a scam on her. No. Because, again, whenever she opened her mouth in the first place, it was with wisdom and kindness. Right? She was wise in her decision making. So you ain't about to run no money about her. Right? Let's look at another. Let's go to 31. Last verse in the chapter. All right. Give her verse 30. Proverbs 31, verse 31. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own work praise her in the gates. A Proverbs 31 woman has a reputation for her actions that are positive. Not just a reputation off of what somebody heard or what they said or anything negative. They see the work that you're doing. See, again, if you were just like I was saying before, if it was just you were buying a field and it's a nice field and you consider that's not really noteworthy. Oh, she's great at real estate. No, like this is talking about her putting her hands to the plow, her putting in work, right? And that, and a lot of times, let's see. I can't remember it right now, but it was one where it was talking about how she also takes care of the needy and the but yeah, so she works with her community. She works in her community. She guides her house. So it's not just her home family. Her community is her family, right? And that's the reputation she's known by, right? That's she's known for doing work, right? Here's the thing: if you can't control your mouth, right? Nobody knows any works that you do. In fact, that's because you're not doing any works, right? You're not guiding how are you Proverbs 31 woman and you meet none of the requirements? Because you're pretty? The Proverbs 31 talks about that too. Verse 30. Favor is deceitful. Beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. It's because you cute don't mean you Proverbs 31. It means exactly the opposite. If that's what you rested on, your laurels and how, not even your laurels, because laurels means you've actually done something to achieve those laurels, right? You're resting on how you were born. Yeah, every princess was born a princess in here. Hate to bust you up. You think you're cute? You're not cute, because here's the problem. In here we understand and realize that mouth is going to kill all that. Right? So you have to be about something. You have to have something to you. You have to be in here putting in some work. That is the role of it. Those are the roles of a woman, right? Those are the things that a woman is supposed to be doing. And I am still trying to figure out how people outside of here say that we don't have our women doing nothing, that they shackled up, and they got jobs to do. They busy, okay? You don't see our women because they busy doing other stuff. Like, that's a lot to do. To be bringing in money to your household, guiding your household, taking care of that man, and raising them children, going out there, getting your degrees, furthering your business. You got a lot on your plate as a woman, right? The fact that you're not out here up in front and are the face of the organization is simply for your protection. See, the Christian church has been running the black community since slavery. And they put the women out front. They do. And that's exactly how the women are the most neglected. That's exactly how they're the most unprotected. It always confused me, right? The black woman is the most unprotected thing on this planet. In the ISUPK, people question us about, well, why don't we see y'all women? Where y'all women at? They're protected. You don't even know who they are. You don't see them. When you're coming to attack somebody, you're coming to attack me because you don't know her. You don't see her. They hate us because we protect our women. This world wants the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American woman unprotected. That's the only way they can get their schemes off. Right? And they know that. We keep getting y'all out of the world and then hiding y'all away from the oppressor, putting y'all in a house with a family that loves you and is supporting you and is trying to make you grow and making sure you get your education. Like, one of my ribs, she got upset with me again the other day. So I told her, I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, I heard that plan. Yeah, you think they talking about making you a director of this? Okay, cool. Right. So when that's done and over with, then we go ahead and start on your doctorate program, and then Oh, you back to talking about that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because you're going to get your doctorate. You already got your master's and you're working in your field and you're getting promoted every 2 seconds. Yeah, you're going to go ahead and get your doctorate because that's the next step for you, right? That's what we do here. We support our women. We promote our women's growth. But people get upset with us because, oh, we don't see them. You right, you ain't about to see not none of them. Not nan one of mine. No. Not happening. Why? Because I love them too much for that. We love our sisters too much to allow them to be in that position. Right? And that's another thing that our women need to understand and need to realize. Right? And the same goes in reverse for the men, right? When you do finally have that man, right? You need to remember first and foremost that that man is your brother. Before he's your husband, he's your brother. That is family. You would never, most women would never allow their biological brother to be treated the way they treat men. Like they be ready to fight that woman. You that woman. That's you. That's how you are. They be ready to smooth go. Man, I'm talking about go straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 straight to jail over what they would do to that woman for the way that they treating their brother. But you treating your brother that way. That's what you're doing. All right, we need to understand and we need to look at each other as family first. Right? Because that disconnect, because somehow in this society they've made that disconnect. Right? Where we see our so-called biological family as one thing and then our spouses as something else. That's not what this is. Right? We there's a certain, because see, here's the thing, there's a certain care that goes into that, right? There's a certain understanding of faults, right? You're not so harsh and immediate to snap on your brother as you are your husband. You like, yeah, you want him to get it right and you want him to get it corrected, but you ain't gonna come at him the same way. And we have to understand, you know, like it's just as worried as you were about your brother while he was growing up, and seeing everything that he had to come home with and everything that was on his shoulders when he came home and what the world had done to him. They doing the same thing to your husband. That's your brother too. Right? And you should be treating him as such. You should give him that courtesy. Right? Let's go see here. And let's see one more example of what a righteous sister is. And what a righteous sister does. All right. We're going to go to Genesis. The 17th chapter. And the 15th verse. Right. Start at 15. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her and give thee a son of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations, kings of people shall be of her. Right? Sarah was a righteous woman, right? So here's the thing that happens when you're a righteous woman and you're married to a righteous man. What you're bringing forth is royalty. You're raising kings. You're raising princesses, right? Yes, obviously, we have to discipline our children, right? But we also have to raise them up understanding their obligations, understanding that they're not just common people. They can't do what common people do. They can't do what they see every other person doing. They must carry themselves in a certain way. See, this is how you get a younger woman to that stage to where she can learn how to bear children and have guide a house. Because when you start to raise her as a princess and you start to realize what you're bringing forth, see, one of the biggest problems in our community is abortion. We literally lose an army a year. And the reason that we have those abortions is the problem. It's the root of the problem. Now, I get it. You know, a lot of people, especially when you talk about abortions, want to bring up the statistically 0.01% of abortions that are based on rape, right? Because out of the abortions that happen every year, 99.99 are not based on rape. I was talking to a woman. She was telling me, like, yeah, I was talking to her. She told me she just left the clinic. I said, was she okay? Is she sick or something? Nah, she was getting an abortion again. Again? Hell you mean again? Yeah, that bitch had 7 of them. 7? Wow. One woman, 7 abortions. Here's the thing. You, no. I don't, like, somebody need to take her uterus or something. Like, you don't. It's a locket. You can't make a decision for yourself. If you having 7 abortions, you can't make right decisions, and you understand you can't make right decisions. Probably won't be able to have one. Okay, but see, here's the problem. Here's the even deeper problem. That was 7 times she killed a king or a princess. It could have been. God, you're right. Could have been twins at one of those times. Right? If you realize who you are, right? Realize who your husband is, and realize what you create, you wouldn't kill it. You would understand that kings were coming from you. You will understand that princesses were coming from you. World rulers were coming from your womb. And they would be guided by how you taught them when they were younger. See, our women don't in here, they do not lead. But their role is so heavy and it is so great that I'm still trying to figure out why you want anything else. Why you want to add on to that, right? It's already hard enough. It's already, the Most High has given, The Most High didn't let up on anybody. The men have a role that we have to fulfill, and it's heavy. The women have a role that they have to fulfill, and it's heavy. Do your role, and let me do mine. Right? Your role is not to lead. That's my role as a man. So you worry about your role, and let me worry about mine. Right. And actually, with that, I got a couple more bad figures later. We are at the time. So with that, shalom, Israel.